So let's dive into this whole saga. Elon Musk, yeah, he's been at it again, over-promising big time and under-delivering in ways that will leave a lot to be desired. You see,
Got it.
his Doge savings promise was touted as this massive $1 trillion fix, but ended up being a measly 150 billion, which frankly is a drop in the bucket compared to actual government spending.
Right. And that gap between what he promised and what he actually delivered is staggering. How do you break that down?
Well, it's like he boasted about saving trillions. He even joked about a $2 trillion impact. But then later it's like a figure of $150 billion. And even that number is questionable when you remember that he's essentially
Yes.
trading on his own hype. And then you add in the criticism coming from senior Trump officials describing him as unfunny, awkward, even potentially in need of a drug test. It paints a picture of someone whose public persona is, well, a bit of a spectacle.
That's pretty wild. It sounds like they're saying his behavior undermines these so-called achievements, right?
Exactly. They pointed out that he's aggressively pushing his own agendas behind the scenes while putting on this almost forced attempt at humor in public. It's like his jokes fall flat and then his aggressive demeanor pops up when it comes to policy or business deals. It's a striking
Yep.
contrast. King.
And what about this whole Doge angle you mentioned? Is that all just smoke and mirrors?
Well, sort of. The narrative suggests that Musk might have deliberately named his department something like government efficiency to distract from his previous Dogecoin pump and dump antics, a move not too different from what happened back in 2022 with, those infamous tweets that sent Doge soaring and then crashing. It's
Really?
almost as if the promise to cut government spending was, interwoven with a deeper agenda of consolidating power and covering up less savory financial maneuvers.
That definitely sounds shady. But some would say, isn't any saving, even $150 billion a saving in itself?
Sure, in raw numbers, it might seem huge, but when you put it next to, say, the military budget, where Trump's been ramping up spending by over 150 billion and even more annually, it really barely makes a dent. It's like trying to patch a leaking dam with a band-aid.
Yeah,
The
I see what you
impact
mean.
is minimal when viewed against the backdrop of massive government spending.
And then there's the issue of these fake unemployment claims. What's that all about?
Right, so Musk's team discovered tens of thousands of unemployment claims that were on paper coming from people over 115 or under 5 with impossible birth dates. At first glance, it sounds like a huge fraud scandal. But in
Exactly.
reality, it appears these were bogus records, maybe placeholders created as part of a system to flag fraud during the pandemic. It's as if he's blowing up normal bureaucratic quirks into major crises to boost his narrative.
So essentially, he's exploiting inherent system flaws rather than uncovering a new scandal?
Precisely. It's like trying to stir up outrage over something that might just be the system doing what it does, compensating for a surge in claims using pseudo records. And you have to ask, is this really about efficiency or just another excuse to rally his base and consolidate his power?
Right, that's a valid concern. How does his association with the Trump administration fit into all of this?
Oh, that's another layer. Apparently, his relationship with Trump has been painted as this awkward spectacle of greed and self-importance. The idea is that Musk is using his wealth and fronting his own business interests, like pushing Tesla to be the go-to government contractor for space or infrastructure, while serving as a sort of, well,
Yeah, that adds another
sideshow
dimension.
in the Trump admin. It's like he's more interested in power plays than actual policy changes.
I can see that. But couldn't one argue that his aggressive behavior is just a facet of being a high flying entrepreneur?
Sure, one could say that, but here it really highlights a disconnect. On one hand, he's making grand promises and showing this almost comedic arrogance. On the other, his actions, like the alleged Doge pump and dump strategies and the overblown fraud findings, suggest a deeper, more calculated maneuver to boost his own profile. It seems like his priority
Absolutely.
is, well, his own influence, even if it means sacrificing substantive gains for the wider public.
So the whole thing from exaggerated savings claims to the spectacle of personal behavior seems less like reform and more like, well, showmanship.
Exactly. It's a classic case of spectacle over substance. He's trading in flashy promises and aggressive PR rather than delivering meaningful, large scale improvements. And even when he does claim some success, like cutting $150 billion from government waste, it's hardly the monumental transformation he promised, especially when compared to, say, a $1 trillion military budget increase. It's a bit like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Wow, that's a vivid image. So, in the end, are we saying that his narrative is built on overhyped promises, selective data, and a whole lot of personal bravado?
Absolutely. The crux of it is, while Elon Musk continues to project this image of a visionary turning dogma into dollars, what we're really seeing is a narrative that often obscures real systemic issues with flashy but ultimately hollow claims. It's like every dollar saved gets contrasted with exponential increases in, say, military spending, suggesting that his impact is more symbolic than substantive.
Precisely. That's a fascinating take. It makes you wonder how much of the public debate is driven by genuine policy failures versus amplified self-promotion.
And that's the $1 million, or should I say $1 trillion question. It seems like behind all the tweets and pet projects, there's a convergence of personal ambition, corporate interests, and political spectacle that just overshadows any real lasting change. It's a wild ride from Doge promises to government reshuffling.
Well, it's definitely food for thought. This tangled web of fake claims, overinflated promises, and aggressive posturing really shows the complexity behind what might seem like just another celebrity tech saga.
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's a reminder that when headlines scream breakthroughs, you might just be looking at a carefully constructed narrative that's more about spectacle than actual progress. It forces you to read between the lines and question the real impact behind all that noise.
And that, my friend, is the kind of critical thinking we need these days. Thanks for the insightful breakdown.
Anytime. It's been a wild, fascinating discussion. Definitely one where the details speak volumes about how narratives are spun in modern politics and tech.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to our next chat on these complex issues. Catch you later.
Take care.